Struggling with smelly, slow, messy compost? Discover the secrets to fast, easy, and odor free composting your garden will thank you. I am talking about all things compost in this live stream, the benefits, the science, common mistakes, how to fix them, how to know when your compost is ready to use, and stick around to the end to look at all the different types of methods because there's more than one. What methods of composting have you tried? Let us know in the chat and in the comment section if you're watching this on the replay. Why start composting? Well, we're going to talk about all of that. It improves soil health. Making sure that's on the screen. Okay. Compost enriches the soil with essential nutrients, improving its structure and increasing water retention. It also boosts microbial activity, which helps plants thrive. We also have the benefit of reduces waste. Food scraps and yard waste make up a significant portion of household trash. Composting diverts this organic matter from the landfills, reducing methane emissions and minimizing waste. It also saves money, right? Instead of buying expensive fertilizers, compost provides a natural and free way to nourish your plants. Plus, healthier soil means stronger plants with fewer pest and disease problems, reducing the need for pesticides. We've talked about companion planting before. We've talked about having a healthy soil food web so your plant has a strong immune system. That's where we go with having a healthy soil makes it so you have fewer pests and diseases, right? It also supports sustainable gardening. By composting, you're creating a closed loop system that returns nutrients to the soil, mimicking nature's own recycling process. This sustainable practice reduces reliance on synthetic inputs. DLR, it is less expensive to make compost than to purchase it. Budget friendly. That's right. Hey, Tech Master. Yo, good to see you. Be weather aware if you're in the path of any storms. Another benefit we have is helps retain moisture and prevent erosion. Compost-rich soil holds water better, reducing the need for frequent watering. It also prevents soil erosion by improving its structure and stability. Now, of course, we can't forget about encourages beneficial microorganisms. We have earthworms, fungi, and beneficial bacteria thriving in our compost, further breaking down organic matter and improving soil health. These tiny helpers make nutrients more available to plants. Okay, we had a visitor I had to talk to. Hold on. I'm moving on. Okay, so you want to compost. This is a fun chart, and if you can't see it on your mobile device or the screen that you're watching, I have it linked in the description. So composting is all about balance. For organic matter to break down efficiently and without odors, you need the right mix of greens, your nitrogen-rich materials, and browns, carbon-rich materials, right? So we can talk about different examples. Greens, the nitrogen, wet, fresh, fast breaking down items. Nitrogen fuels microbial activity, helping bacteria and fungi break down organic matter quickly. Too much nitrogen, though, causes a smelly, soggy pile of a mess. So, our list of examples of greens Our fruit and vegetable scraps, green leaves, algae is on the list, grass clippings, kelp or seaweed, green shrub prunings, tea bags, alfalfa meal, hay, coffee grounds, and the filter, animal manure from herbivores only, house plants, weeds without seed heads, old flower bouquets, human hair, animal hair, and aquarium water from freshwater only. For our browns, our carbon, our dry, woody, slow breaking down items, the carbon provides energy for microbes and helps create air pockets, preventing your compost from becoming compacted. So examples of browns: aged hay, oat hay, cardboard, dry shredded leaves, sawdust, chipped wood, egg cartons. The cardboard ones, obviously, not the styrofoam. Shredded paper, paper towels, straw, toilet paper rolls, wood ash, dried grass. We also need to keep in mind about moisture, keeping it damp like a wrung out sponge. If it's too dry, add some water. Too wet, mix in more browns. Aeration, turn the pile weekly to introduce oxygen and speed up decomposition. So what do we have over here? Bowtie Life in the Garden says the challenge question cannot be answered. Properly done. Those are all false. Old Man King Homestead, hello, good to see you. DLR, wait, what? Human hair? I didn't know that one. I got a never-ending supply of that. Wreaks havoc with my vacuum. We do have this poll question. We have, what's your biggest challenge with composting? It smells bad, it takes too long to break down, not sure what to add, pests and critters get into it. Composting comes in lots of different ways and flavors. I thought this was really fun. I'm going to show it again. This flow chart. So it's like, can you compost at home? Yes or no? And then you follow it. If you say yes, where? Outside or inside, right? What do you want to compost? Is it kitchen waste only? Right? It shows you directly to what kind of style of composting you should try. I think it's a really fun little flow graph here. Bowtie says human hair is better served for nesting. So we talked about our greens, our browns, we have to have moisture. There was this example that was said to me where if you scoop up a chunk with your hands and you squeeze it, a dribble comes out, then it's the right moisture. And then the aeration part of it and particle size. Chop up larger items to break it down faster. What are our mistakes and how can we fix them? Are there bad smells, rotten ammonia, odor, causes too much nitrogen greens, not enough carbon browns, lack of oxygen? Pile is compacted, too wet. How to fix? Add more browns like dry leaves, shredded cardboard, or straw. Turn the pile more frequently to aerate it. If the pile is too wet, mix in dry materials and cover it with the layer of browns. A lot of the people that we're going to talk about later, because I have video examples of teaching composting, it's always about covering it back up, right? Covering up your green with your brown. Bowtie says, I couldn't answer the poll. My compost never smells, never has pests, is always full. If your compost is breaking down too slowly, the causes could be not enough nitrogen, too many browns, large pieces of organic matter, slowly decomposition, lack of moisture of air, lack of moisture or air. And I'm wondering if sunshine needs to come into effect with this. I'd love to hear your opinions in the chat. So how to fix this? Add more greens, like your kitchen scraps and your grass clippings. To speed up microbial activity, I have to clear my chop up large items like sticks, corn husks, or citrus peels before adding them. Turning the pile often and checking moisture levels should feel like the damp sponge. Now here's another problem that could happen in Bowtie Life in the Garden. We have sometimes complaints about a pest, a rodent, that maybe there's flies or unwanted critters. What is causing that? Well, if you've added meat, you should add your lime layer. Dairy, you should bury. oily foods. These are all things that can cause problems. You can compost them. You can compost a lot of things. Exposed food scraps are attracting pests. That's where it comes back to cover it up every time you put something on. Pile isn't hot enough to deter unwanted visitors. And the fixing that, the quick fix is avoiding the meat, dairy, greasy foods. But like I said, you can compost anything. Burying the fresh food scraps under the layer of browns. That's where we talked about covering it back up. Using a compost bin with a secure lid or fine mesh wire at the bottom to block rodents is another way, to keep them out. If your pile is too wet and soggy, the causes are too many greens and not enough browns, excessive rainwater soaking the pile, not enough drainage in the bin you're using. I prefer composting with the ground. I need it to touch the ground. I've always just had to do it that way for my own brain. Fixing that, adding more browns like your shredded paper, dried leaves, or sawdust. Turn the pile frequently, which I don't do enough of. I would like to get better at that. I would like to get better at composting in general. That airflow piece. Covering it with a tarp if excessive rain is a problem. I can't imagine doing that in an on-ground pile. DLR says to Bowtie, I'm a newbie to compost. I used a couple 32-gallon trash bins, and a constant supply is #goals. I really loved the discussion about using a bin to collect your greens and a bin to collect your browns. And once you had those bins full, which I have some links to bins in the description below, you then build your pile. You make all your layers and then you let that pile sit and you turn it every week. And then you refill up your bins. This is my green bin. This is my brown bin. Once those are full, I build a new pile, right? To me, that makes so much sense. And I'd love to try that as well as some other methods we're going to talk about. Bowtie is speaking about sunshine, which was my question. I think sunshine would sterilize the compost, wouldn't it? I don't cover it, but it sits under a magnolia tree. Mine sits under trees as well. Evergreen sun almost never hits my compost. These are some good points. So I know that my compost pile gets early morning sun and then the way late afternoon sun. The rest of the time it has shade. And I'm not sure what the recipe needs. Like, I want to build a compost situation at my offsite garden. And I have a lot of different situations I need to handle there. And I have been struggling with location. I need it to be accessible. I need it to be near the garden. The place that I could put it is a bunch of evergreens and no sun access. Is that going to be a problem? I don't know. I need to be able to get the tractor in and out of there. Bowtie says that can work to DLR. It could be slower though. Touching the ground is kind of key. Thank you. I'm really not, I don't love bins. I really don't. I think when it touches the ground, it instantly has this kickstart, unless you're dumping a microbial solution into your bin, to have the earthworms and the beneficial bacteria already coming up and finding the food, right? The Dalek composter is pretty awesome if used correctly. DLR, that's an interesting idea. Tashani grows. Tac Master Heat grows bacteria. Now, I don't have it right in front of me, but there are different temperatures that your compost pile gets to if you're doing hot composting. And I don't have that in front of me. Bowtie says every week. That just seems like too much work. See, that's why I haven't done it. I really haven't. I cover everything always, but I did flip my pile. I did flip my pile at all last year, and it is beautiful this year. So I used the really long method. I built the pile and I actually kind of still add to it. And it sits all spring, summer, fall, winter. In the spring, I'll stir it up to like get at the bottom, and then I'll put that on my garden beds. But no, I am not currently in the life of having time to go stir it every week. Now, supposedly, I'm going to show some videos later. They talk about how that's the key to getting it to break down faster. And now there's tricks to that. You don't have to always do all the work yourself. But I would like to figure out something that works for my lifestyle, right? Tackmaster says the hotter the better, I'm pretty sure. Part of me questions the hotness and the microorganisms. Yes, we have hot composting and it gets to a high temperature and it's to kill bad bacteria, right? But part of me says, is it necessary to break down food, or can we just do it with the soil food web? Do we have to have heat always? And I don't think we do. I think there are cold composting methods, which we will keep reading about as we go here. Bowtie Life in the Garden says heat grows bacteria, but sunlight sterilizes it. Covering with a piece of cardboard may help in challenging situations with too much sunlight. And it was did not. I thought so. Did not was the correct in that sentence. Gandalf Smith, hello. How are you doing? Good to see you. We're just talking compost here. Tackmaster says no, the sun doesn't kill pathogens or beneficial organisms. Gandalf says I can't stay. I promised Steve I would be on panel in 15 minutes. Ooh. All right. Thanks for saying hi. Thanks for saying bye. Tackmaster, solarization and sunlight are two different things. Thank you, Tackmaster. Yes, goodbye. Gandalf Bowtie says, I meant to say I did not flip my pile. Year before last, I tried several of those 3-week piles. Yeah, one here at the house and 2 at the church building, and you're not impressed. I love hearing about your guys' experiences. So, let's talk about another problem that you may have with composting. Pile is too dry and not decomposing. The causes are not enough greens or moisture, too much sun exposure drying out that pile. So how do you fix that? Sprinkle water evenly until the pile feels like a damp sponge. Now we do have to say, I feel like, warning, a pile of wood chips heats up and will combust and start on fire. So keeping that wet is key, because some people add wood chips as a layer in their compost. Back to this. Mix in more greens like food scraps or fresh grass clippings. Keep the pile covered with a tarp or add shade if... Oh, there's no if. There's no... I don't know why it says if in there. So with that being said, we've talked about how to build them as far as ingredients. Your browns, your greens, your moisture, your air. Talked about problems you could see. How do we know if it's done? Dark, crumbly texture. The compost should look like rich, dark soil with a crumbly consistency. Earthy smell. It should smell fresh and earthy, not sour, rotten, or ammonia-like. You're not going to be able to see the scraps that you put in it. Now, you can see eggshells usually, because eggshells take a long time. But you shouldn't see food scraps, leaves, or other organic materials that still look like their original form. Oh, and then twigs, right? They take a little longer. It'll be cool to the touch. Active compost generates heat, but once it's finished, the pile will cool down and stabilize. No more pile shrinking. That is something I see when we go from winter to spring and it finally heats up. The pile just sinks. Compost shrinks as materials break down. When stops shrinking, decomposition is nearly complete. I'm going to go back over here and see what we've got talking about in the comment section before I move on. And we have Food Forest Permaculture, who is in my description. We are going to talk about one of his videos towards the end when we talk about methods. Soil is made in layers in nature, so try to do the same. Greetings, young Earth warrior. Shawnee Grows. Good to see you, Howie. Bowtie says, dry is probably the most common problem I see. Really? Yes, greetings to you. Is it done? Taste it. Yummy. You know, mechanics would say that, Bowtie. Are you a mechanic in a past life? Tack master. It's like as long as you're adding water to your compost, the hotter the better. If not, yeah, I'd put it in the shade. I'm thinking shade as well. Enjoy being. Good afternoon. Managed to catch this live. Welcome. We're talking all things compost. I'm going to show methods and other video resources. We do have plenty of links in the description of tools you could use, and some of the images we've already talked about. Maybe you want a list of the browns and greens. I have provided that, and then some videos we're going to look at and what they're talking about with compost all over the world. Bowtie is a handy man. Oh, good. Dave Knight has joined our compost conversation. Tell us about your experiences and methods. I know I would like to incorporate a tractor more since I will be building more compost at the offsite garden. So now that we've identified it's done, how do we use the finished compost? Of course, top dressing our garden beds, spreading 1 to 2 inch layer on top of soil to boost nutrients, mixing it into potting soil for our containers, combined with garden soil or potting mix for healthy seedlings. And we cannot forget about our compost extract, and our compost tea. So compost tea is what's on the screen here. Just to steep compost in like a nylon or a paint strainer bag in water for 24 to 48 hours to create a liquid fertilizer. This should say add an aerator, because then you're multiplying microorganisms in the tea. If you're doing a compost extract, that's where you're like just taking the compost in the mesh bag in the paint strainer and dunking it in a bucket until your arm can't do it anymore, and then that liquid is the extract. So there's tea and extract. Tea, you're multiplying microorganisms. Extract, you're just getting whatever comes out in those dunks. A lawn booster, if you have a desire for that, sprinkle compost on your lawn to improve soil structure and feed grass naturally. Now, the methods, all the different ways and colors and flavors of composting. There's community composting. I'm just going to try and show some pictures as we talk, and then I'll come back to the chat. Bokashi, worm bins. We did a whole live stream about vermiculture and worm bins. I shared in the description of that live stream a wonderful resource of step-by-step how to do it, what materials are needed. There's a link in that description of the vermiculture worm bin live stream. Sheet mulching, trench or pit, chicken corners, bin systems, bays, wire bins, plastic composter, a bucket system, a tumbler. These are all things that have conversations around composting. This is an example of a bin system. You would build your pile, and then you can flip it to the next bin, start a new pile. There's the wire stackable situations here. There's the bin that tumbles. Now, I'm a fan of on-ground touching, not in a bin per se. And then the Bokashi composting is your food scraps mixed with EM or bran, which there is a link in the description for buying Bokashi bran. I think it's part of the Epic Gardening link. Sealing it into a bucket with a lid, draining it. There's a little spout at the bottom of the special bin for Bokashi, and then you can use that diluted 1 in 100 for plants, and then when the bin is full, you're going to leave it for 2 weeks to ferment it. Keep draining it, and then you bury the items inside. You take them out of the bucket, add to your wormery or your compost bin, put in a large container. I have never done Bokashi. It's like a fermented compost is what I understand it as, where every time you add a layer, you add your bran that they spoke about. It's like there's a little scoop of it. So, the way I compost currently is it's just one big pile, honestly, and I just keep adding to it, even though you're supposed to like let it sit. And on 3 sides, I have snow fence. If you're familiar with snow fence, I did start with chicken wire, and I hate chicken wire. I don't want to use chicken wire for anything. If I ever build anything for chickens, I just want to use hardware cloth, to be honest. I hate chicken wire. I have a few videos that I can share, and then I'll come back to the chat for real this time. So we have LifebyMikeG has a video about 7 composting methods. So he does go into why should you compost, the types of bins he uses. Oh, I don't want to see your ad. And then here is our Pathway Soil Bank from Howie from Food Forest Permaculture. Link is in the description. Look at all of the wonderful things, composting in layers right in the pathway. So you dig a trench, you add your layers, you fill the trench back up, and it's a pathway. While that's breaking down, we don't want to be planting it. I also have Jandai Life. They have a really good channel, honestly. He just had experienced an earthquake, and he talked about this wonderful place that they're building that's a food forest that is going to be able to feed 1,000 people. And what he talked about was mixing it really well, stirring it up once a week, keeping it covered. So they go out, they throw their scraps, they mix it with the previous pile they've got going, and they always cover it back up. He said it breaks down very quickly. They did a test. They had bones from chicken. They had a fish head. He talks about all of that here. A bunch of bananas that they made banana syrup from. It's a great channel. If you've never heard of it, it is in the description. And this one more that I want to talk about with the button here is Simplify Gardening. So the methods they spoke about was piles, bags, tumblers, bins, vermicomposting, which is your worm bin, Bokashi, fermenting, mistakes that happen, too much greens, you get a bad smell, rodents and pests, those are things that are talked about a lot. The 3 hacks are cutting up the ingredients, stirring it, and add your coffee grounds, okay? You can always use an activator if you want to talk about a hack, taking some of your old compost and mixing it in with your new compost that you're going to make, adding worm castings, bioactivators, adding microbes. So he actually has a masterclass composting book, and I mean like book, and it's not for beginners. It is only for people that really want to deep dive into all things compost. He has a link to that book in his YouTube channel, which is linked in the description. So pick your method and try it, right? So let's see what we've been talking about while I've been saying things. Bowtie life in the garden. So, food form is permaculture. Sunlight contains UV, which is used to sterilize. Therefore, sunlight will solarize what it hits. What am I missing? Dave Knight says, I made 1 yard of starting compost for next year in bags. Tackmaster says, the bacteria grows with heat up to 70 degrees or 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Bowtie says, I have a 3-bin pallet compost system. Tackmaster, solarization is using plastic wrap to intensify the heat beyond that and using the greenhouse effect to kill those bacteria. Howie culture. Bowtie says, sorry, that was at Tackmaster that said solarization and sun are 2 different things. I was just trying to clarify the statement. Keep having the conversation, everyone. Enjoy Being says, I don't really have a compost regimen at the moment. I have been building midden swales on my slope using branches laid out in long piles and layering over them with compostables. It sounds like you've built a swale and then in the mound you're almost doing hugelkultur, which food forest permaculture has a beautiful 5-foot tall, don't remember how wide, huge, massive hugelkultur mound called Silly Lily Alley or something. It's really beautiful. It's going to be great. And then sort of like an above ground Howie culture. Okay, so it's buried more. It's not mounded more. Okay. Miss Sharon reminds us live chat or all messages, y'all. Thank you, Miss Sharon, for coming in. Yes, very nice. Very nice. Tackmaster, if that was the case, then how would soil work to bowtie life in the garden? I think that we all know that when soil isn't covered, it gets very hot and starts killing the soil food web, and that's very bad for plants. And that's why we encourage gardeners to use mulch. Tackmaster says UV does affect it minimally with a spelling correction. The description has links to some tools. So what I'm having in there, I can't show it, I don't think, because I'm pretty sure it puts my location in it and I don't want to show that part. But I have a bin that you can have in your kitchen to collect your scraps if you want it to look cute, right? I have to have a lid on my bin. I fill up, it's a stock pot that I used to use for canning, but I have different ones now. So it's just, it's so handy because as a family of 5, I go through a lot of things that go in that compost. And then I take it out to my bin or my pile that touches the ground that has the 3 sides with the snow fencing. And what I want to do differently is I love the idea of having the really tall, like Rubbermaid gallon garbage circle thing with a lid, like what Howie showed, where he dumps everything in the trench, where I just collect all of my greens and I collect a bunch of browns. And when those are full, I go build a pile, right? Instead of this like top cover, and then the one pile always has something added to it and the bottom is always composting. I kind of want to do, I've built this pile, I'm going to let it sit. Do I want to start stirring a pile once a week? Not really. I have done the pathway soil bank where you dig a trench, put the layers in, cover it up. Maybe I'll incorporate that more. I'm not sure how it's going to look because I have to do something different because eventually we're not going to be at the rental place and I don't want to have to move a giant compost pile at that time. I would like to have the compost pile kind of finished and out of here, and I'm only composting at the offsite garden. I have decisions to make, right? Now there are electric, this blows my mind, is there are electric things that you plug in, machines, countertop composters for apartment dwellers, and you put everything in and it chops it up, and there's something you add to it. It must be microbes. It's in the LifebyMikeG video about 7 ways of composting in his description, this machine. And I'm like, but we're using power to make it turn into compost, and it's just a small amount. Like I have huge, massive containers of compost that I collect. I've done vermiculture before, and I started with too small of a worm bin, I discovered. I wanted to have a place to get rid of my food scraps in the winter, and I didn't build a big enough bin to handle the amount of waste, the food waste that I produce in a week. There wasn't enough space for them to consume it. So then I learned that, right? I feel like there was another thing I was going to say. Oh, the bucket method. You take a 5-gallon bucket. Maybe you're on a balcony in an apartment. You drill a bunch of holes in the bottom and the sides. You do your layers in the bucket, and then you put it out on your balcony. I don't know how long that takes. I imagine it's at least 3 weeks before that's broke down. You just made compost for your balcony garden, right? You can make your extract or tea with it to feed your plants. Bowtie Life says exactly, leaves fall on soil or weeds grow on bare soil. That's how it works. Prepper Insights, hello. Welcome to our compost conversation. Enjoy being. I also stew veg matter in lidded trash cans, stew cow and horse manure in a bathtub, then add them together with peat, wood chip, and sand onto a tarp. I'm a bit erratic. It's so sciencey. Bowtie says also sterilization only happens in the very top layer, so if neither is around leaves to cover, the top layer will crust over and dry out, and soil under 1/2 inch or more is protected depending on the heat. That is right. Exactly. How we finished the hugelkultur mound and putting in 2 kiwi in the morning on the eucalyptus as a natural arbor. Zombie preparedness. Hey, welcome to our compost conversation. Enjoy Being says, I need to catch up on this mound you have built. Oh, it's wonderful. I have a tractor. It's fantastic. It makes me not want to dig holes myself ever again. Food Forest Permaculture says, worth a look. For sure, Enjoy Being 33 feet long. It was 12 foot wide. Okay, I only remembered the 5 foot deep part because it's massive. Bowtie says the tractor is awesome. Back at our place in Arkansas, I had a tractor. Compost was a dream. I brought about 500 pounds of compost in the back of my Durango to Florida. What? That is badass, Bowtie. Miss J.K. Gardner, hello everyone. Tell us, how do you compost in the chat? Enjoy Being says, wow, sounds great, Howie. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So what's your biggest challenge with composting? Maybe you have no challenge. You're a rock star, right? We have it takes too long to break down. I do the really slow method. It's like I only take out of there once a year. I would love to be able to just build a pile, break it down in 3 weeks, have it ready to go. Build a pile, break it down in 3 weeks, have it ready to go. I feel like I want to get more into that. I want to make foliar sprays, extracts for soil drenching, a compost extract to dip onion starts in and then plant them, like just those kinds of things, to just use what I have more on more levels, right? Dave Knight, the same size as a Viking burial mound. Fun fact. Oh my goodness. I'm not sure why people are afraid to compost. Do you have any thoughts about why people are afraid to compost? Maybe it's because they had a bad experience. I don't know. I think when we have a conversation about let's encourage more people to grow their own food, what's stopping them? Why don't they care? Is it because they don't quite understand what food from outsources is doing to their gut microbiome, and they don't understand nutrition? They've never maybe had a freshly harvested vegetable, like directly 2 seconds versus, it's getting shipped in. Maybe they don't understand the actual chemical reaction that happens when your brain is on gardening. We did a live stream about that, and I did a podcast about that. If you didn't know, we have the Learn As You Grow podcast here at Shawnee Grows. It's under the podcast tab, or it's on Spotify and a few other places. Where was I going with that? I lost it. I lost the thought. Let's see, go back up. Enjoy being. A few years ago, I had a lot of fine biochar that I stewed for months in various concoctions. I found mixing coffee grind with it at the end helped to fluff up the biochar grains. Yes to biochar. Yes to that. Fantastic. Bowtie Life says, after my 3-week compost experiment, I just do the slow method. It's called lazy composting. Shawnee Grows. Own it. We're lazy. Miss Sharon says, I don't have enough food scraps. Okay, I don't have enough food scraps to add to my compost, mostly carbon from the leaves and such. You don't have a good balance of green. Now, we did go over a green chart, so let's just make sure. Maybe there's something that you didn't know, but I'm sure you already know this, Miss Sharon. You've been to all of our live streams. Okay, I don't have enough food scraps. So the green material, vegetable trimmings, that's your food scraps. Algae, green leaves, grass clippings that are green, kelp or seaweed, green shrub prunings, tea bags, alfalfa meal, hay, coffee grounds and the filter, animal manure from herbivores, house plants, weeds without seed heads. Do you have weeds, Miss Sharon? Old flower bouquets, human and animal hair, and aquarium water that is from a freshwater tank on the greens section. So maybe some of that gives you some more ideas on ways to build. You can build a little baby pile. Take whatever food scraps you have and add your little carbon on top, and then just start building it. It might be like an ice cream bucket's worth, but you're making compost, and then you can use it to make liquids. People are afraid because of mistakes made. I just want to encourage you, if you're watching this on the replay or you're here while we're live, if you've made a mistake, just learn from it and keep going and keep trying. Maybe something here tonight is going to answer your mistake question, and I encourage you to try again. Oh, Tackmaster says Berkeley compost method. Oh, I read that. You have to go, old man. See ya. Thanks for coming. I read that, and I don't remember I read it before the live stream. Hot composting. That was yes. Rapid composting technique that aims to produce a high quality compost in 18 days by maintaining high temperatures of from 55 to 65 Celsius or 131 to 149 Fahrenheit, and turning the compost pile regularly. It's the fast, high temperature, hot composting method is what I'm probably saying it wrong too. Berkeley is what I'm saying. I don't know. DLR says way too many gardeners are nursery dependents. They don't start their own seeds. They don't compost. They purchase everything. And that gets expensive fast. And I think when you move, or you decide I'm going to be a gardener, the first thing you do is you make compost. I mean, do you agree or disagree? The first year, yes, you go to the nursery and buy plant starts and you direct sow. Second or third year, maybe you start to get brave and understand math and that it's way cheaper and more efficient to seed start. But if you don't have the setup to do it, you're not in a climate that it makes sense for you to do all that, then you're not going to seed start. You're still going to direct sow and buy from a nursery, which is great to support them. Maybe you have a gardener friend that starts a bunch of plants and you can buy from them. Bochai says, yes, Berkeley method. It wore me out. Results were so marginal. I was not impressed. I think the other key factor is it doesn't have to be your stuff. When we're talking about composting, you can go to the coffee shop and collect their used coffee grounds. You can go to a butcher and get bones or even meat and add the lime like we talked about previously. You can go to a restaurant and say, I want to collect your kitchen scraps at the end of the day or end of the week on this day. I want to compost them. You can wrangle your neighborhood and say, hey, don't take your compost to the landfill or the community compost transfer station. Take them to my house, but with the caveat of set some rules of what they should be putting in that bin to hand over to you and what they can't. So you could still make soil by using everybody else's stuff, right? Howie says the food bank picked up 35 pounds of kale from me today. They were happy to get it as the next stop was the older earthlings at the next old people village. Wow, Howie. Enjoy Being says, I wish I was proactive and close enough to shops to form a network to collect vegetable waste from supermarkets or restaurants, etc. Right. And then to actually have to go there and collect it. That would be a struggle for me, is committing to the pickup. I would just want someone to deliver. Bring me your things. Honestly, that's my personality. Bowtie Life says, plant some comfrey somewhere. That'll give you tons of greens. I have, is it 6? I have 6 comfrey plants. And I'm not sure that's enough. We'll see how big they get this year because they were babies last year. DLR says to Miss Sharon, maybe ask a local salon for some human hair bits. What is it called? The pet groomers? Think of how many haircuts a dog at the pet groomer gets in the summertime, right? Miss Sharon says, I'm beginning to add purple dead nettle. The weeds conversation, it's taking over the whole place here. Be right back, says Howie. That is a good idea. Miss Sharon says to DLR. Bowtie says, thank you, Miss Sharon, for the shout out. Yeah, did you guys catch Bowtie's April Fool's video? It's very well produced. Miss Sharon says to Bowtie, you're most welcome. DLR says to Miss Sharon, I just learned tonight that the human hair counts as a green, but I don't know how long it takes to break that hair down. Tackmaster says greens is nitrogen, browns are carbon. You can use grass clippings and save your leaves. Bowtie Life says 140 degrees Fahrenheit works for me. DLR says I didn't start by making compost. I started by sowing seeds. Maybe I'm weird though. I just want everyone to grow a garden, DLR. Or I want them to buy food from a local grower. That's all I want, humans. Miss Sharon says, oh, that would require me to go in public. I hear you 100% in my soul. I hear you. Because I can't commit to picking up things from businesses. Can you please just bring it to my door? I'll build a box outside. You can put it in there, bag it up. I hear you. Mrs. J.K. Gardner, I think people are frustrated because they may be comparing their finished compost with other folks. The comparison, there's a word after that. I can't think of it. My first compost was too wet. I had to research and found out that I needed to add more brown. That was one of the failure mistake things that we talked about in that section of our live stream earlier. Tackmaster says, yeah, it's fast. I'm not sure if it's the best method, but at least it can work for the start of your growing schedule. Dave says, my compost is up to 140 in the center. I use a compost thermometer. Smart, Dave, says Howie. Enjoy Being says to Howie, I have a kale plant growing under the elderberry hedge. It's been happily growing there for a few years. Never thought it would live through 2 seasons. Never have plucked any leaves. There's kale trees. I didn't remember what the species name is, but I can't grow it in Minnesota. I'm pretty sure it'll get killed before it can make its large tree situation. And when I say tree, I just mean it's like way bigger than a kale plant. I don't mean it's like a tree. I don't think. GCBs, hello, hello. I don't have any downside to composting. That is why I built my garden over the area that had been horse toilet for 15 years after it rested a few years. Yeah. So about 17 or 18 years for my garden soil. Bowtie Life says 6 plants is not enough comfrey, Shawnee grows. When they get to their second year, break them up. This will be their second year. Break them up. Okay. Previous owner had a patch that was about 10 feet by 20 feet. That seems like a good number, working towards it. Because it's like, I want to use the comfrey to make infused oil in a salve mix or a whipped body butter. I want to use the comfrey to chop it and drop it around my fruit trees. A cover, chop and drop. Did I say that right? Yeah, chop and drop. I want more comfrey for sure. So splitting it up sounds like a good plan to me. And DCBs is talking about rabbit poo and liquid fish muck. That's very nice. Yeah, we have wild rabbits. Enjoy being comfrey grows easy just from a thumb-sized snip of root. I arrived at this place with 2 plants and now I maybe have 20 plants. Oh, that's fantastic. Farm on Central is where I got my comfrey from, delivered to my house. I've talked about them in the past. There was just a live stream where, was it the 25 Forgotten Crops? It might have been that live stream where there's a link for them in that description. I don't remember which crop was coming from them, though. DCB says, I have a friend that raises meat rabbits, so he gives me bags of rabbits. That is a lovely friend you've made. Oh, he's trying to give you rabbits, too. Miss Sharon says, my comfrey is beginning to look good. I'll be making salves, too, but also making comfrey tea for the garden. That sounds great, Miss Sharon, the comfrey tea for the garden. Food forest, permaculture. I have 10 to 15-year-old pathway soil bank, aka compost, to use when needed. Making soil so you have plants to plates to persons is the best thing I have ever done. It is so fulfilling. I hear you 100%. Don't forget about our community, shawneegrows.com. Head on over there and check it out. Like what you see, don't forget to subscribe for more gardening chats. Like I said earlier, check out the description. It has all the links for articles and images, tools, videos related to gardening. I showed them on the screen. Go watch them, learn from them. We mentioned our podcast, Learn as You Grow. We just put out a new episode this week. And upcoming live Friday, April 4th at 8:30 Central Time, I'm going to talk about spring soil prep, and I think that's a good follow-up to our compost conversation. Boosting your garden beds for a healthy growing season. Do you amend or do you feed the soil food web? Are those two different things? Let's talk about it. Saturday, April 5th at 9 p.m. Central Time. Let's talk about tricks to buying the best plant starts, saving money and avoiding common mistakes for when you do go buy plant starts from all the different ways you can buy them. We're going to talk about the differences, what to look for. I don't want you guys to get not necessarily scammed, but just to know what to do when you're shopping, right? Miss Sharon says, take them, DCBs. Easiest thing to care for on the planet. My kids, I'm sure, would love to have pet bunnies, but it's cold here, very cold, 6 months out of the year, and I don't have a space-built infrastructure to keep them because they're not coming in my house. Bowtie Life in the Garden says, I stupidly killed my 10-foot by 20-foot patch before I realized what it was. I have a story quickly, though, before I finish reading that sentence. I took comfrey leaves and dried them to make an infused oil, but I didn't label what the leaves were and I couldn't figure it out. And as I'm throwing them in the compost because I couldn't risk, like, I don't know what this is, and it just got filthy, I went, that was the comfrey leaves, Shawnee. And it was already winter and they were all gone. And I was like, no. Anyways, discovered one lone leaf on the other end of the garden and have nursed it back up to 5 plants in 3 years. I will have 15 before fall. Way to go. DCB says, yeah, they run like 200 plus K. What? What? When he says, give me rabbits, it would be like 10 cages. I know him. I keep telling him no. Oh my goodness. DCB says, yeah, Miss Sharon, I know. We raised them at a meat on the farm. Rabbit tastes so good. Okay. Jay Dixon, hey folks, I'm not getting notifications. Oh, well, I am going to go live. I don't know if you saw, tomorrow. Were you here for that? 8:30 Central Time. We're going to talk about spring soil prep, which is a great leadway from our compost conversation that we've had tonight. It was a great conversation about all the compost things. And then Saturday at 9 p.m. Central, tricks to buying the best plant starts wherever you're buying them from, how to save money and avoid mistakes when buying a bad plant. That's what's coming up. And they have been created, so you can hit the notify me on the channel in that live stream. Here, I think you're sharing it. Miss Sharon, thank you. Bowtie says, oh my gosh, DCBs, 200 cages of rabbit poo, dream. DCBs, yeah, they actually sell the poo to people for their gardens. Fantastic business idea there. And then here is the next live stream, yes. So hit the notify me. Richard, how was your farm sitting? Did you do your farm sitting situation? My garden is outside my cottage behind my house. The cottage is an 1899 fort built by the British military during the Boer War. I was listening about that today somewhere. My garden is interesting. We're talking about compost. What we discussed was the benefits of composting. Why should you compost? You know, there's actually like a kind of a flow chart in the sense of, so you want to compost, how do we figure out what to do? Do you want to compost at home? Yes or no? Can you compost outside or inside? Right? What do you want to compost? Excuse me. It talks about, just plain old building leaf mold, heap piles, if you want to do the trench or pit method, your pallet bins, using chickens to break up and stir the compost and do the work for you. Concrete bins, cedar wood bins, wire bins, tumblers. We talked about common mistakes and how to fix them, how to know when your compost is ready to use, and all the wonderful methods. So hit the replay if you've missed all that. Thank you all for being here. We're going to say our goodbyes. And we'll hang out together tomorrow. Oh, innocent look. It stinks that I missed compost talk. Quick, get your experiences out. Have you done composting? How do you feel about it? What do you do? How do you do it? Bochai says, Jay Dixon, later when you watch the replay, you will break down. Bowtie says, hey, Richard, it's been forever since I've seen you. How you been? Compost is easy, said DCBs. Jay says, I asked my compost how it was doing. It said, just getting better with age. Bowtie says, with a little understanding, it really is, DCBs. Compost kind of does it itself. You just provide the recipe and the right moisture, aeration, greens and browns, microorganisms. Did that page that we showed, I could read it. Who are our little microorganism friends in our compost, you might ask? We have ground beetles, centipede, ants, springtails, mites, rove beetles, flatworms, earthworms, millipedes, snails and slugs, protozoa, bacteria, molds, fungi, organic matter, sow bugs, pill bugs, roundworms. I'm sure there's more than that. That was just the quick version, right? Dave Knight says, I will be dreaming of making compost. Jay says, I have 7 composters and a leaf mold pile. Fantastic. You're an expert. Bowtie says, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just do it. I have 7 more minutes. All right. Thank you, Miss Sharon. Yeah, we can make it an hour. That's fine with me. It's a good replayable amount. Enjoy Being says Geoff Lawson's chicken tractor on steroid system as a compost technique has always excited me. I know one of the popular ones is always Justin Rhodes with all his deep bedding methods. And then I've seen where you build, like with the wire, a circle ring and you add your compost in it, and the chickens in the chicken coop, in the chicken run, jump inside and dig it up and stir it up and do all the things. Roly polies, yes. If you're having roly polies eating your seedlings in your garden beds, leave them a potato or a melon rind, and they'll eat that and let your seedling get bigger because they sometimes eat seedlings because they're yummy. Bowtie says, I love my little critters in the compost. It's one of the places that my second born, I'll say, go get a shovel's worth and see what you can find today when it's warm out and active and everything that actually has stuff in it. Right now, everything's like hiding under the earth, right? And all the layers. Because he's my bug guy. DCBs, I often forget that most people didn't grow up on a farm. I'm sorry if it comes across that way sometimes. It's all good. I grew up in the country, but it technically wasn't a farm. We did not raise anything. And for the managing of tillable land and livestock, that was done within my household, but on someone else's land and property. It wasn't done at our homestead. 6-minute countdown, 4-minute countdown. I saw the potato thing on Roots and Refuge the other day. That is where I'm referencing it from. That's right. Roly poly. Pill bug. So it looks like this. Do you recognize that little guy? They roll up in a curved defense mechanism. They have that harder shell thing. That's a roly poly. Jay says my compost methods are quite lazy and ignored. I barely gave energy for life. Compost ain't getting more attention. Deal with it. Yes, we've talked about are you team lazy or are you team, constantly stirring and touching it and doing things? Miss Sharon says to DCBs, I appreciate everyone's input. That's right. We have to hear about, oh, your farm sitting was not fun. The owner was almost blind for a year. His place was not clean. Cats, peacocks, and sheep used the house as a toilet. Got bitten badly by creepy crawlies. No functioning bathroom. Well, that's going to lead to future conversations, I hope, Richard, with the family owner. And oh my, I'm so sorry. That's a lot. DCBs, I have learned a lot about gardening from hanging out with you all. We left the farm when I was 12. Tack Master says crickets are my worst enemies living in the country. Really? Potato bugs, says DCBs. That's a different kind of bug. Bowtie Life in the Garden. Roly polies is a regional name, I think. Maybe southern. Well, I say the word roly poly here in the north. I learned the name living in Louisiana as a 5-year-old. Yeah, we call them roly polies here. And yes, crickets are important. They're somebody's food. And they have a job. They have a purpose. You got to work with everybody. The biggest challenge with composting for the poll was it takes too long to break down, 56%. Bowtie says, that is rough, Richard. I've done situations like that. Very rough. Enjoy Being has a question. If you know the answer to this, answer it in the chat. Are the roly polies slaters? Slaters? Is that how you say that? In the United States and Canada, you might also call them tomato bugs, sow bugs, wood bugs, armadillo bugs, doodle bugs, roly-polies, carpenters, or boat builders. In Australia, they're a butchie boy, and in New Zealand, they're a slater. Does that help answer that? Miss Sharon. Crickets and grasshoppers don't make it long here. Cats and chickens love them. Tack Master. They can work away from home. The noise drives me crazy. Hey, Mother Earth Garden Club. We're on our way out. Thank you for coming in for our compost conversation. Hit the replay for all the fun images and conversation and information that we went over. Bowtie says, you say roly-polies because back in 19 tickety-yacht 2, I brought the term back to the north, 1974. Sure. Tip of the hat to you. Enjoy Being says, I just checked in. Yep. I am from New Zealand. Ha! Okay. Yeah, I was like, Slater, what is that? It's like okay. We're all on the same page. Love it. DCB says, put straw on top of your compost pile. It will help hold the heat in and speed up the process. Plus, I think that you can speed it up with specific types of compost. Get out your last tips. We're ending the live stream soon. Jay Dixon says, compost, the upscale dumpster, turning refuse into riches. GT Junior grows in Alaska. Good to see you here at the end. Catch the replay for all the lovely information. Thank you all for joining us. Don't forget, we're going to go live Friday and Saturday, maybe Sunday. I don't have one planned yet, though. And just make sure Tackmaster reminds everyone that you're watering. That is right. Okay. As I say, grow every day. Oh, there's a comment. Let me get it. Let me pick it up here. Bowtie says, I always top my compost with fresh grass clipping. Just cut a strip or two and empty. Blessed days, everyone. Yes. All right. We're out of here. Grow every day in every way. Learn as you grow. Thanks all. Jay's going to look up the schedule alarms. Can't depend on YouTube notifications. Bye-bye now.